through your lesson plan today?
Yeah.
I want to look
They
through.
emailed it to me?
I did. Okay. I got it. Thanks for sending that. Appreciate it. Let's start off by talking about this Cradis article.
Mhm.
Music education at the tipping point. What are your thoughts?
I think it's kind of along the lines of things we've talked about before, in that music is not what it used to be. In our current arguments of, music makes you smarter, and our pushing of the music as it once was just is not working. So I thought it was interesting, a couple of the ways that suggested bringing it into the modern era or whatever. I really like the idea of the MIDI composition thing, where you could connect with professional composers, and the kids could learn from them and create their own things. And I think that things are moving, like it or not, in the technology direction.
Sure.
So we need to be ready for that.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Sure. I've stated several times about the fact that adapting to situations is really important for music teachers, particularly modern music educators who are trying to balance this notion of the traditional ensembles, which we love, and the notion that those ensembles aren't serving everybody. They're not serving everybody the way they used to. They're not serving certainly various populations who are not involved in traditional band or choir programs or orchestra programs. And we've talked about the importance of secondary general music, kind of general music in high school, where you're perhaps giving those folks a chance to learn about music and use music in different ways. I think it's important as a modern music educator that we are very adaptive and we're very creative about coming at some of these problems, and really understanding that we have to have a big tent idea or approach to particular bands and choirs and traditional ensembles, because we want to make sure that those ensembles do not go away. We want to make sure that those ensembles encapsulate everything that we're talking about in terms of process-oriented music education. Okay, so ideally a band, a choir should be a blending of both process and product orientation, where we're taking ideas about performing and we're utilizing aspects of that to inform the process and inform the understanding of music. I think what Cradis is talking about, and we look at the date on this is 2007, so this is 10 years old already. But a lot of what he's talking about, these perilous times for music education, he lists this data, which is astounding to me. This is all from 1999 to 2004 data from the California Department of Education. During a period of the total California public school population increased by 5.8%. Percentage of all public school students involved in music education courses fell by 50%. Wow. The decline represents a loss of 512,000 students, and is large of any academic subject area by a factor of 4. Physical education was second with decline, by about 5,000 students. And to us, who kind of live in this world of sports gets all the attention and athletes get all the attention, that statistic is kind of what's going on there. We have to understand that we're talking about physical education. We're not talking about sports teams. We're talking about the actual physical education that happens in schools. Okay, so courses that these students take to learn about nutrition and learn about exercise and learn about the value of academic sports, kind of those have fallen as well. There are 1,553 fewer music teachers, with a decline of 26.7%. Now, obviously, not all of these losses, not all of these teachers left because of perilous times for music education. As we talked about before, the attrition rate for music educators is high. So this is that's a staggering percentage. Some of that is natural attrition. He makes the point that these changes occurred during just a 5-year period. This rapid, dramatic change signifies a tipping point, which he talks about. You've probably read about this book before, the Malcolm Gladwell book, The Tipping Point. And really what he's saying is that throughout history, throughout various forms of human endeavor, there's always been a tipping point that causes things to change and causes things to really revolutionized. And I've heard it argued in other places about the Renaissance and how the invention of the printing press served as a tipping point for learning, for education, because it made education a lot more accessible for people with not as much money as the very rich. I've heard it argued that with the advance in what you're talking about, MIDI and electronic music, we're living in a Renaissance type musical landscape where things are changing rapidly and things are happening very quickly, and we're not quite sure how this is going to play out. And what you were talking about before about engaging MIDI and engaging other forms of musical ideas, I think is going to be important for music educators of today and tomorrow, because adaptation and being able to kind of roll with the punches is going to be very, very important as well. Where's this little chart? Right, this comparison of out-of-school and in-school music I thought is really interesting. You know, out-of-school music satisfies the user's personal and emotional goals. In-school music satisfies curricular goals. Wouldn't it be great if we could combine those two together, where we're satisfying personal and emotional goals as well as curricular goals? Out-of-school music is individualistic. In-school music is large group oriented, right? So we've talked about our ensembles, band, choir, orchestra. I think that there's a way to engage students more individualistically inside of large ensembles. And we've talked about my research in ORF and kind of bringing in a more creative aspect to instrumental music education. So I think there's a way to do it creatively. I'm not saying it's always easy, and I'm not saying it's always readily feasible, particularly when you look at the demands of curricula and No Child Left Behind and Common Core and all these other things that kind of come up. But I think that as music educators kind of think about their own programs in terms of how am I facing curricular goals and how am I becoming more process oriented, it's going to be important for them to think individualistically as well. Out-of-school music makes use of technology to connect Americans across distances. In-school music makes low use of technology to connect students to others. And this has changed even in the 10 years since this article was written. I've seen lots of articles about commissioning projects where bands will commission a composer, and they're able to bring the composer to the band room vis-a-vis Skype, vis-a-vis technology that allows the composer to interact with the group in a meaningful way. So I think that this is becoming a lot more feasible. Out-of-school music is primarily non-classical. In-school music is primarily classical. And, you know, we've talked about the problem with these terms as they are. You know, when we talk about classical music, it's always a misnomer because there's this baggage attached to it. You know, I prefer the term art music, but that's a personalized issue. Out-of-school music de-emphasizes formal concert attendance, enabling performers to be experienced over time and distance. In-school music emphasizes one-time concerts. Okay, we know what the deal is about that. You know, and again, I think there's a way to incorporate both of those inside of a successful instrumental music program. Out-of-school music is often homemade. In-school music is often composed by others, right? And we've been hitting that one here on the head the past couple sessions, because we've been talking about how to think creatively, how to get music more creatively engaged inside of classrooms. I think that's really important. That fact about, you know, we want students to be creative. We want them to make their own music. We want them to understand that